that's a little crazy. Um, no, but seriously, let's see, I read, so, I say read, I feel like audiobooks qualify as reading.
Yeah.
And, like,
You're spending time in the world, which is what matters.
yeah. And,
You know the story.
I mean, I was able to, the nice thing about it is I could do them while I was at work. Because I'm just mowing the grass and weed killing and weed eating. And that's, like, all I did was just listen to music for the longest time. And I'm like, I'm kind of bored of listening to music. Like, I was actually having trouble staying awake sometimes because it's just so monotonous. And so I'm just like, I'm going to start reading books. I already finished Fellowship of the Ring by that point, but then I read Two Towers. I started that Thursday, and I finished it Thursday, and then I started Return of the King late Thursday, and finished that, Friday.
That was pretty quick.
Yeah, well, I'm listening to them at double speed, because that's how fast my reading speed is. So it wasn't too hard
like
to just...
someone talking super loud.
What?
It's like someone's talking super loud. Or fast, I mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's honestly like a conversation speed because of, like, the discrepancies that audiobooks have. Like, they have to spend the time enunciating everything properly. Also, I got alt ready.
Go ahead and take it if you want.
Yes!
Well,
It
that
worked! When alts work, it's fantastic!
They don't tend to work for me.
But anyways, oh, and today... No, actually, I'm sorry. Everything I just said was null and void. Wednesday, I read Two Towers. Thursday, I read Return of the King. Today, I read the first book in the Summoner series. Holy crap.
Summoner... I don't think I've heard of that.
It's more of a kid series, honestly. Like, not exactly a kid series, because it talks about some very interesting subjects, like, I'm saying this, I'm trying to be family friendly, but this is legitimately what illegitimate son, but you know the word for it.
Oh, yeah.
And they mention that in the book, and they have a few other things, like, along those lines, and it's very much, like, it reminds me, in a sense, like, the major, struggle points in the book that, like, bring the strife and the conflict are all about race and about, how you were, like, your origins. And so, oh, shoot, that was not what I wanted.
Oh, crap. I hit behind me for a sec.
No, dang it. So it's all about, it kind of reminds me, dang it! It reminds me of the Muggleborn and, like, the, purebred, like, in Harry Potter. It, like, has that same vibe to me.
Except at this time it's illegitimate children.
Well, yeah, but, like, the whole point of, so, in the Summoner series, by the way, this is, well, would you read these books, possibly? I mean, they do fit your wheel well if you, like, think of them as, like, Percy Jackson level reading.
Yeah, I was about to say, is it like Percy Jackson? Because
it's not Percy Jackson, it's, like, so, something I've figured out about, just any book series I've read, like, after reading Lord of the Rings, it feels like everything draws from Lord of the Rings in some way. It's just such a big series to, like, pull things from.
I think a lot of people would say that because it's one of the earliest like huge fantasies.
Yeah, like I was thinking through all of Aragon, and I'm like, there's no way that this would exist without Lord of the Rings. Like he knew how to build the world because of Lord of the Rings, I feel like.
Pretty much.
And like, granted, Aragon is a really good series, but I would argue that I like Lord of the Rings way more reading wise. At least like, not reading wise, but like world building wise, I thought it was much better. Because Aragon, it puts it in the scale, like, it does a good job of, like, building a history for the world, it, like, makes a contemporary aspect of it, but Lord of the Rings, like, whereas Aragon has a history of the world, like, it goes back and says, Gilbertorix, he was, like, I butchered that name, probably.
What name?
Gilbertorix, the main bad guy?
Galbatorix?
Galbatorix.
It's not Gil, it's Gal.
It's been a few years.
Clearly.
But we're winning 7-1 right now, anyways. It's just like, they mentioned how he's been there for years now, and like, he's been ruling for so long. But in Lord of the Rings, it's like, they go back thousands of years, and it like, has pertinent information to what's happening right at the time. Not just like, oh, there's some bad guy. Like,
if you like, large time spans and things that matter, seriously, Malazan Book of the Fallen.
I already have the first one on audiobook. I'll listen to it when I find the time to be audiobooking something.
And don't judge the first book by itself.
Okay.
Just saying.
But yeah, it's just like the whole fact that Lord of the Rings has such a big history and world to it, but it's all fictional. It just blows my mind being able to like come up with that many in-depth details. Like I found myself thinking of like different ways I could build a world that crazy.
That's kind of why I've been thinking about it too.
It's like I honestly started thinking about your world, and then I thought of another. Like I got a new watch, and me being me, my first thoughts of getting a new watch was not, oh hey, it's a cool watch. Is there's this little it's a digital watch / analog, so it has an analog clock but digital in the background, and it has like a little twist on the side where you can move the analog clock separate from the digital, but I can free spin it without moving the watch ends, so like the little ticks, the watch hands. I can spin the little dial without moving anything, and I just do that in my free time whenever I'm fidgeting with my watch. Well, I started thinking of like, wouldn't it be fun if I like create a superhero where it's like he has a watch that he gets, and the watch lets him manipulate time, so he's paused in time. He like pauses the whole world, and he can determine the amount of time he wants the world paused. So in a sense, he has like super speed and perspective of everyone else, but in reality, he just paused time. It's like which in effect is almost the same thing.
The only noticeable problem I can think of that would be it's super OP.
Well, yeah, no, but then I was going to say, this is where I bring in the conflict. Whenever he pauses time, he loses years of his life from the back end. So instead of being 65, if he paused time for a year, he'd be 64 when he died.
Right. So he still ages when he's paused.
Yeah,
basically.
So like if he paused it for a full year and did not return exactly the same way he stopped, and at the exact same point he stopped, it would look like he just all of a sudden grew like a beard or something. Like in an instant. Because for everyone else, time is definitely stopped. And I was thinking, like, as I was developing this, like, okay, what could be a bad guy in the series besides just the fact that his power takes away his own life? And I was like, well, what if there was other time stoppers, but their abilities are not to, like, pause time. They can exist within the pause time, but then they have, like, separate abilities that maybe aren't as powerful as his, but their downside is not nearly as horrible as losing life. You follow what
I'd
I'm...
be interested to read anything that you wrote.
Yeah, so this has all just been going in my head. But anyways, back to the Summoner series. Because, yeah, it focuses... So, something interesting I found trope-wise, if I wrote my book series, I would make it about an ordinary character, as ordinary as can be, and not in the ordinary sense like there's something weird about him. Like, he literally has an ordinary life. Because that's what I find interesting about all these series, is that, like, an orphan, or there's just an average citizen, but then there's, like, something weird about them, which is they can just be taken away from their normal life and go into this crazy world. Which I find is such a normal stereotype trope in any major, dang, I can't say that, in any major series. So, I'm like, well, what if someone broke the trope, but still made an interesting book? Because at that point, it wouldn't so much be necessarily the fact that they created some amazing character. It'd be because they were really well written, and it brought the reader's attention, besides the main character being cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that just got me thinking as I was reading the Summoner series, because he's an orphan, and like you still don't know his parentage by the end of the book, by the way, and that's not like a big spoiler, because there's no clues. The very first chapter of the book, I'm not spoiling the book, by the way, I promise you on this. Very first chapter of the book, it says that he was left as an orphan, abandoned in the snow in front of this village, no one knowing where he came from. He didn't even have a cloth or anything around him. He was naked in the snow. Like,
and then they never go back to it.
They never go back to it. Like they'll mention like, oh yeah, you're an orphan, and they're like, oh, you're not a pureblood or something, because they know he's an orphan. Because the whole point of the book series is it focuses around summoners, and they summon like these demon creatures. That's why it's called the Summoner series. And so he finds out through some chain of events things.
Yeah, usually if you start a person as an orphan in a fantasy book, his parents matter a lot.
Yeah, so I'm assuming it'll matter eventually, but not in the first book. It hasn't. Like, there's been controversy because like how things work in that world. It's like if you don't know your parents, it's like that's where he can become the illegitimate son thing because of how summoners get their powers. It revolves around that, which is why it's such a big deal in the book.
Right.
But anyways, it's really just like, I don't know. I enjoyed the book series, and I definitely want to read the rest of them, but I want to audiobook them, because now I have the narrator's voice in my head for all the characters, and they're so well... Like, he changes his accent from character to character. Holy crap, Shane.
He keeps hitting it back to me. Yeah, I've thought of actually 2 entirely different other book ideas as well.
Really?
Yep.
Like what?
The first one I thought of was tentative title would be The Thunderlands, or just Thunderlands. For some reason, I picked Australia. I don't really think it matters where it happens, but basically, either
Thunderland
future...
sounds like a good name for an Australia book.
Yeah, that's kind of why it works.
The land down thunder.
So maybe not like future, but like a alternate present timeline, maybe.
Like something different happened in the history of the world, and
Yeah, and
that'd be kind of cool.
basically something happened where there was a huge storm that just settled over Australia, and then it never went away.
So
And
it's like
this
Jupiter Red
giant...
Spot.
Yeah, kinda. And it's just like a massive thunderstorm. It's just constantly. If any electronics go in there, they're instantly fried.
Oh wow.
If people try to go in there themselves, they rarely come out. And if they do come out, they can't tell you anything other than it's like super foggy and just. They were like.
Did they lose their
constantly
memory or
about to
something?
die. No, but there wasn't anything to see because it was just a huge storm.
Yeah. Okay.
So the story starts with a science team trying to go in there to figure out if they can like harness the energy or something.
Ready.
But their
Send it
ship,
up.
something goes wrong or something, and
Woo! Okay. Yeah. So something goes wrong, and what? Oh goodness gracious! You are
it's
frozen.
interesting.
Wow. That was.
Basically, they find a downed alien ship,
Uh-huh.
and throughout the course of the story, it's
Oh,
revealed
dang it.
that the aliens created the storm of the world, and it's about the people trying to get out of the.
Oh, hey, quick fill-in, by the way, because we paused the recording. Shane was talking about how he has this kind of horror-type book that he has an idea for with Alien and Monster. Continue on.
So yeah, that was that one. Tentatively titled Thunderlands.
All right.
And if you don't like that one, you're probably not going to like the other one.
What's it?
The title that I was thinking of is just a simple The Red Jungle. It's basically people were trying to terraform Mars, so you just like send rocket ships up there full of seeds and I don't know, gas. I haven't thought about it that much. It's hard to think of all these things without like researching. And
See,
since there's such a long transit time between here and Mars, they actually send a human team up there before the plants even reach there, and then by
because
the time they
is it like the Rocky can travel faster than the humans without humans on board?
no, it's just they wanted to have Mars partially terraformed before they sent humans because
Oh, gotcha.
it's an inhospitable wasteland basically.
Woo!
So by the time the humans get there, the plant life has mutated beyond anything on Earth. And it's all,
Oh,
like,
this sounds
red
like
and stuff.
that section of Jumanji that I hate the most. Like when they're in the jungle and the plants are all like trying to kill them.
I never watched Jumanji
It's
or read it.
it's terrifying.
But yeah, anyway, basically they go into a giant carnivorous jungle on Mars, and they're trying to get off the world.
Yeah. Okay. You are really sounding like some Oreo stereotypes.
Yeah.
Dang it. See, Shane, what you do is like, I don't know if you noticed this, but you build the world and then you build a character. At least what I've been hearing you talk about books.
Yeah, I'm not very good with characters.
Meanwhile, I like to build a character and then build a world to try and like rival how great my character is.
I feel like if I try to build a character, it ends up being a Mary Sue, and I really don't want to do that.
A what?
Mary Sue,
What's that?
where you put yourself into your main character, and you just make your main character super overpowered and awesome.
See, so there's an aspect of like, so an interesting thing about Ireland, and I'm just bringing this up because having gone to Ireland, this reminds me of it. In Ireland, they have an interesting storytelling where it's like, in the United States, you're so used to this like optimistic, if it's like an adventure story, there's an optimistic ending. They survive, or they make it, or something good happens, unless it's a horror or a thriller. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, but in Ireland, that's not the case. Like, they have Ireland storytelling, and it is not like a positive ending. It's an average, everyday ending, where it's like, okay, yeah, that this happened, and now they're dead, because it's a realistic telling of a story, not a fanciful.
Yeah, I would try to keep it.
And on top of that, they don't even glorify the death, by the way. Like, in the other books, even if someone dies, it's like, oh, we honor them. No, it's just like normal life. Like, they're eventually forgotten, basically. That's like the Ireland way.
The heck? The ball stopped moving. My ult. My poor ult.
But, what? Are you lagging?
I'm getting horrible lag.
I scored.
If you were talking during that last 10 seconds or so, it just like...
Here, you'll just hear it later. But, to reiterate, Ireland storytelling is like, they die, and then there's nothing. Like, in other stories, people die and they're like, oh, they were such a great person, or like, they tell like, the heroic story years and years to come. But in Ireland Tales, that's not the case. Like, that you'll hear about them, but then they'll be kind of forgotten, like a normal everyday character. And so,
from the one Irish book I've read that's definitely Irish, I can see what you're saying.
yeah. And so I kind of want to do something like that, but at the same time, this may be just me being American, or the fact that I like really positive things, but I definitely am gonna try and like do a positive ending, because it's just not you don't feel good whenever you like end up with something that's not a positive ending.
It feels kind of like you wasted your time.
Yeah, honestly, like the Lord of the Rings is so great because it has like 50 different endings to it, and my phone is freaking out. It's probably Jordan, because I see the group me. It has like 50 different endings, and all of them are just what you wanted for the ending of the book.
Yeah.
And then there's even one ending that you don't like as much, like Frodo leaves, but it makes sense why he leaves. And, like, I'm honestly saying these things and it technically spoils the book, but it's been out since, like, 19 whatever, so
Yeah.
who
I don't
cares?
think Lord of the Rings spoilers matter.
But it's like, you have the ones that you like the endings for, and then you have the ones that you hate the endings for, but they're both still good endings. And so, if possible, I would say I want to write a book similar to Lord of the Rings, where it's like, I can do that in a massive scale. Have both a good ending for it and a bad ending, and that was great. Pepperoni scored.
Good job, Pepperoni.
Yeah. But yeah, you follow, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
The one Irish book I read, I didn't like, so...
also, I want to point out, me, after reading The Lord of the Rings, and, like, knowing about, like, the movies, because I've seen the movies multiple times now, I'm just like, are you freaking kidding me? The hobbits are so boss in the actual Lord of the Rings books, but in the movie, they are such wimps, is what they're portrayed as. So...
all I really remember from the books that was different is Tom Bombadil.
Well, that's in the first book, yeah, that's a huge difference. And he's actually mentioned in the third book, too, at the very end. Because Gandalf visits him. Which he's never explained, which just bothers me, because in a world where most things are explained, like, even wizards get explained eventually.
Yeah, right?
Pepperoni stole my store.
And mine. I was right there, too. See, look.
Wait,
you,
really?
and there's me.
How did he
I don't-
steal the score
I
from
don't-
both of us?
I do not know.
Um,
I missed. Dang it.
I mean, we won still. Let's see who got play of the game.
Probably pepperoni.
I have too many things going on at once. What was I talking about? Yeah, pepperoni. Got it.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
Tom Bombadil?
Tom Bombadil. He's never explained.
No, he's completely forgotten about later too. Like I don't think they ever mention him.
No, they do. In the third book, Gandalf goes and talks with him. Like, that's one of the endings.
Oh.
But the
That's
hobbits
good.
aren't allowed to follow.
I think I might have read them in like freshman year of high school, so it's been like 6 years.
And I've read these all of 2 days ago with audiobooks, no less, so it's all the more in my memory.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so close to my next level.